Dylann Roof, the Charleston shooter, has been sentenced to the death penalty. This is after the jury deliberated and decided that because of his lack of remorse and because of his own admissions, it only makes sense for him to receive capital punishment. Now, according to CNN, the 10 women and 2 men recommended the death penalty for all 18 counts that carried that as a possible sentence. Also, just to give you a little sense of his testimony, and he opted to represent himself during the sentencing portion of the trial, he had said the following: "In my confession to the FBI, I told them that I had to do it. And obviously, that's not really true. I didn't have to do anything. But what I meant when I said that was, I felt like I had to do it, and I still feel like I had to do it." So throughout the trial, ever since he's been in custody, he has proven time and time again that he does not regret what he's done. He kept a journal, and prosecutors confiscated that and read portions of that journal to the jury, and it was just disgusting. Like, he didn't regret what he did. He even referred to the victims as innocent, but still felt like he needed to do it because black people were, quote, killing white people in the country.
Yeah. After deciding to represent himself and getting the death penalty, he said,
"Oops."
Okay, so you guys have made a liberal out of me. So let's just explain. Number one, no one's ever been more guilty. Jury convicted him, no problems, in Charleston, South Carolina, where they've had problems convicting folks before. And he says he did it. He says he does not have remorse, and he'd do it again. Well, it just doesn't get any clearer than that. And he murdered 9 people. He did it for...
It was premeditated.
Premeditated. It walked in, admits to all of it. It's not an old confession. He's saying it right now, right? And it was done for political and racial reasons. But that's not even relevant. You kill 9 people in a premeditated way, that's the death penalty, especially in South Carolina. But the reason I say you guys made a liberal out of me, I used to be for the death penalty. And yeah, so I'm human, so I have a streak of vengeance in me, right? And you hear the heartbreaking stories of those poor people killed in that church, and I want a little bit of vengeance. But at the end of the day, Ben Mankiewicz has won the day. I've hosted the show with him since back in 2002. It's been a long, long time, 15 years now, right? And one of the arguments he uses against the death penalty, the one that's the most clear is, sometimes we execute the wrong people. Well, then we're done with it, right? Yeah. So not in this case, but 4% of the time we execute the wrong person. 4%. And luckily, a lot of them have been exonerated off of death row before we executed them, and that's part of how we know that stat. Okay, now, but one of the things that Ben said was, you don't want to have any sympathy, even a shred of sympathy, for these killers. And when you're set to execute them, the natural human reaction for some people is to have an iota of sympathy even for a monster like this. And it's a fair point. I'm happy to have him rot in jail for the rest of his life. But then you look at him and you know he's mental.
Yeah, look, I actually disagree with Ben. Maybe some people might have some sympathy. I don't think that's a strong argument, though. I have no sympathy for him, right? I would have no sympathy watching him get that injection and dying, okay? However, I think that it sends the wrong message to society to say that murder is wrong when we sanction murder. Like, when we are in favor of murdering people as punishment. I also think that in terms of a punishment, a real punishment is making someone live with their crime for the rest of their lives behind bars without the possibility of parole. That's more of a punishment to me than letting someone off easy by giving them the death penalty.
I desperately wanted him to get justice, and he did.
Yeah.
But on the day that he dies, I'm not going to be like, yes! The guy is clearly deranged. I mean, I know that most of the mass shooters are deranged. The guy in Fort Lauderdale is deranged, and whatever their racial, religious, political reasons are, you got to be deranged to walk into a church and kill 9 innocent people that you know are innocent. So when we execute the deranged guy, there's not a lot of joy in that. And so that's part of the point I'm making. The other point that you're making is also fantastic, don't get me wrong. And so I think that when he says, I killed black people because they were killing white people. Now the state is going to kill him because he was killing black people, and round we go.
Right, exactly. It just sends the wrong message. And you know, there are a lot of people who are in favor of the death penalty for emotional reasons, right? They want the vengeance, and I totally understand that. And they'll use arguments like, oh, it's actually cheaper to do the death penalty than, you know, house them in a prison for the rest of their lives. The numbers actually don't bear that out. So in terms of saving taxpayer resources, it's actually better to keep them behind bars. I think punishment-wise, it's better to keep them behind bars without the possibility of parole. And I think morally speaking, and we don't talk a lot about morals here in the show, I think it makes more sense to not give him the death penalty. Now, with that said, in South Carolina, federally speaking also, death penalty is allowed. So that's what they've sentenced him to. That's what we still believe in this country. So he will be facing capital punishment.
Yes. And the good news, of course, is at least we had justice.
Yes, absolutely.
Get the full 2-hour show ad-free. Become a member, tytnetwork.com/join.